All right, let's bring the Dune City Council regular meeting Wednesday, December 13th, 2017 to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mayor Robert Forsyth.
Here.
Council President Sheldon Meyer.
Present.
Councilor Duke Wells.
Here.
Councilor Robert Orr.
Here.
Councilor Alan Montgomery.
Here.
And Councilor Tom Allen is absent and excused, as is City Administrator Ms. Mills.
Thank you. Would you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, as we have a new council member, we need to swear her in.
When we're finished, I want you to sign this paper.
Okay.
I, Susan Snow,
I, Susan Snow,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Oregon,
the Charter and the codes of Dune City,
the Charter and codes of Dune City,
and I will faithfully perform the duties of City Councilor
and I will faithfully perform the duties of City Councilor
to the best of my abilities as long as I'm in office.
to the best of my abilities as long as I'm in office.
Welcome, Susan. Now I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All for?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's passed. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passed.
Have a motion to approve Duke's birthday.
Motion to, I'm glad you're here. On the 30th, no less.
Yeah, almost got in there. One more day.
Yeah, you got that, your dad got that tax exemption, right? That's correct.
I never let me forget about it.
All right, this evening we have a guest speaker, Chief Langborn. I asked Chief to come and talk to us this evening, mainly because some citizens had brought up to me their concerns about whether the fire department has authority here, or would they come if there's a fire, that sort of thing. They were kind of confused how that works, as the fire department is a special district and not really part of Florence. And so I invited Chief Langborn to come and give us a 5-minute spiel and question and answer if you have questions for him. Chief, thank you very much.
And thank you for asking me. Is it okay if I sit like this? I just kind of feel bad with my back to the citizens there. I'll just give you a brief overview of our two organizations. Siuslaw Valley Fire and Rescue, we are a fire district, and we provide fire and rescue services and prevention services from a geographical standpoint. From probably the easiest way to put it would be Southview Heights North on 101 down to right around milepost 199, just on the other side of the Douglas County border going south. And then we go to milepost 9 on Highway 126. So right around, I think, Tiernan Road, I think is the landmark out there. Now, we also, from a fire district standpoint, have mutual aid agreements with Gardner and Winchester Bay and Reedsport, as well as Yachats, and then to the east of us with Mapleton, Swiss Home, and with Lane County. So we can pretty much go anywhere, and when we have gone anywhere. In fact, right now I've got 2 crews down in California. That's how far our mutual aid goes. From an ambulance district standpoint, pretty much the same footprint. The only difference is that they extend east into the Swiss Home and Mapleton areas. But other than that, we're pretty much the same. They go to, I believe it's right around milepost 22 on Highway 126, which is just on the other side of the tunnel there. They provide ambulance services and advanced life support, paramedic emergency medical services. The fire district and the ambulance district run a lot of the same calls, and we work very closely together. As you know, we're involved in what's known as an intergovernmental agreement to combine administrative services, and basically what that means is that my new fancy title is Chief Director, which means I'm the fire chief as well as the director of the ambulance district, and I oversee both organizations, and then our administrative team handles human resources, finance, and general administration for the 2 districts. And I guess with that, I don't want to bore you to death. I'll just open it up into questions that either the council or the audience has for myself.
What do you do in your spare time?
Well, not much.
Come to city council meetings. So maybe could you give us just a brief rundown on special district versus Florence?
Okay. Yeah.
City of Florence.
All right. Okay. So a city, an incorporated city like Dune City, the city of Florence, has an area, and typically that city is responsible for all services within that area, where a special district is unique to a certain service. So from a fire district, we are a special district. We provide fire protection, fire prevention for that geographic area. And with that, we have a millage rate that currently we're at $1.13 per thousand of assessed evaluation. And I'm proud to tell you that actually we can go up to $1.29, but we're able to run our district and run it quite well at that rate. The ambulance district is a little different in the sense that technically it's a health district. And they have a millage rate of 35 cents per thousand, and that's their permanent tax rate. And then they also have an operating levy that they use on top of that. And I can't do the math on the top of my head right here, but it works out to be right around 75 cents per thousand. And then in addition to that, they collect fees for transport services. And between those 3 things, we are able to provide services. Does that answer your question, or was that more information than you wanted?
Just a question, how do you interact with the state forestry group? Do we pay some sort of small assessment to them?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Well, we interact with them a couple of ways. I feel bad not looking at you while I'm talking here. They are also mutual aid partners for us. So the difference between Oregon Department of Forestry and us is that the Department of Forestry is a state agency, and they're primarily responsible for really weird like this. There's got to be a better way.
There you go.
Just sit on the other side.
Yeah, that'll work.
I didn't have my back to them.
That's okay. We're used to it.
They provide fire protection and prevention services for basically forest areas, for state forest lands. Okay, now we do interact with them because they are a mutual aid partner with us, and basically what that means is that we will support them and vice versa. A good local example was last April or May. We had a pretty large slash pile that got out of control up in Glenada, and we were there. We supported them, I think, for close to 9 to 10 hours on that until it got under control to the point that they could take that over. Now, they do have an assessment, and that is specifically for wildland protection. Now, and I know that can be a touchy subject with people, and I don't really want to engage in that, but I will tell you this, and it's kind of a side message that I want to deliver to the group here. And that is that we've had some pretty interesting fires here this past year. We saw what happened down south, outside of the Bandon area, and we're watching what's going on in California. Now, certainly our climate and our fuels are much different than they are in California, but at least for me, that's a wake-up call. When I first got here, I used to hear the term asbestos forest, and I don't believe that. If you look historically back at the largest wildland fires that have happened in Oregon, they've been on the coast, and they happen in anywhere from like a 50 to 100 year cycle, and we're in that range right now. So we work closely with them, and as a fire district, we are strongly working towards obtaining some grants, regional grants with our partners north, south, and east of us, so that we can better prepare as a fire district to take care of our citizens. And that grant and that work will also include the Department of Forestry. And I can speak on their behalf on this. They are just as concerned about the situation as we are, and want to make sure that you're protected. So hopefully in the next year or so, we're going to have some good news about what we're able to bring forward to you to help you protect your property better.
What happens on federal and private lands?
Federal land is Forest Service, and private land is also covered by the Oregon Department of Forestry. That's why they have that tax assessment that's in there. So, and I know some people feel like they're getting double taxed on that, but just know that the fire protection for us is, we're basically structural fire protection. We're not wildland. We will do what's called initial attack to help get in there and minimize the effect, but really our job is, in a large wildland fire, is to get in there and protect structures.
And I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but do you find any difference when there is marijuana apart pot farms, that there's more fires or more dangers?
You know, we haven't had any issues. I know South Lane Fire has had a number of fires with marijuana-related processing places. I don't know if they've been hash oil fires or what they've been, but we haven't had any. When I worked in California, you know, at that time it was not a legal substance, and from a wildland, because there's a lot of wildland fires, I know that it was very common to come across illegal grow operations, and that was always a little scary because it's booby trapped and that type of thing. But I haven't really had any issues with anything.
When can we burn, when can't we burn, that kind of thing? Who do we notify?
Okay, great question. Okay, well, you can, typically you can burn right around October through May is the average burn time. And the fire district has adopted a fire code. And in our fire code, we do require a burn permit for areas that are not St. Florence, which is an incorporated area which does not allow burning. And you can go online and you can fill out a burn permit, and it downloads it to us, and it is good for a year. Okay, what does that mean? What does the burn permit really mean to you? What it is it's educational. It has all the information on it for you to call the right people to make sure that it's a safe burn day, both from an air pollution control standpoint as well as a fire safety standpoint. We're not the burn police. We don't go out and write tickets or anything like that.
Is that included if you just have a burn barrel with the screen on top?
A burn barrel, you're probably okay. This is more for like backyard burns.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
with brush. The one thing I will throw out there is that when you do burn, it should only be natural vegetation grown on your property, so that doesn't include the sofa or the mattress. And what I will tell you is that when you do that, that sends up a really nice black header, which looks a lot like a car fire or a structure fire. And if you, there's a very good chance if you do that, you're gonna have fire engines showing up in front of your house. And you'll get all kinds of embarrassing looks.
Anybody?
Yeah. Have we had, I know that over in the valley, they have, periodically, they have bans on using wood stoves and fireplaces. Does that ever happen? I've not seen it happen here. Does it ever?
No, it's more of a pollution control issue, and I think it's parts of Eugene and Oak Ridge where they're in that valley, and they get trapped in there, and we have too much wind here, I think, for that to be an issue for us.
Anybody else?
About the burning, I've noticed in my neighborhood over off Huckleberry, you know, on the interior there's a lot of wind protection with the trees. And on maybe half the days this last couple of weeks, the burning has smoked up our whole property out for a number of hours during the day. So is there anything that we can do to prevent that from happening? Because
Here's my suggestion to you, because we get these phone calls every day. My first recommendation to you is that you politely go to your neighbor and ask them to consider burning at another time where the weather is better. For instance, if it's raining or there's a cloud inversion or there's high humidity that will hold the smoke down and it tends to go into your neighbor's yard, which can be an irritant. That's the best thing to do. But I know, and I realize people aren't comfortable with that, okay? What we don't like to do is we will go out and we will inspect it from a fire and life safety standpoint. But we're not pollution control, and we really prefer not to get involved in neighbor complaints. That's why we advise you go, you know, if you just talk to them nice most of the time, but I realize that doesn't always
yeah,
happen.
I'm not trying to stop this fire or anything, but
Right.
maybe there's this education isn't out there. You know, what constitutes a good day, what doesn't. These things maybe would be good for your guys' department to focus on educating the
Well,
other
here's
neighbors about
here's what we tell people, and weather can be very local. I mean, down to the block sometimes, depending on what's going on. And what I recommend, if you're having a problem, if you're not able to resolve it that way, then it becomes a pollution control problem. And then you contact LRAPA, which is the air quality control agency for the county. And on our burn permit and on our website, it has that number. And they're the ones that can come out and enforce that.
So anyone who's burning in Dune City needs a permit?
Yes.
If they don't, where can we check? Is that supposed to permit?
Well, what'll happen is we will go out, we'll ask, you have a permit? They say yes or no. If they say no, and it's a burn day, and there's not a hazard, okay, which means that they're gonna burn down the neighborhood or something like that, and it's not a giant pile of vegetation the size of this building, okay? And I'm speaking from experience here. It's safe. It might be noxious to a neighbor. There really isn't too much we can do about that. We will advocate. We will say, hey, do you realize that that's going into your neighbor's yard? But it's not like we have the authority to put out their fire. Usually 99% of the time, people, oh, okay, we didn't realize that, sorry about that. We'll put it out and we'll start it up again the next day or something like that when the weather is better. But in terms of us doing anything about it, if it's August and we have low humidity and there's high wind, yeah, we're going to put it out. And we'll take care of that because that's a hazard. Right now, it isn't a hazard. And again, it's a fine line. We want to serve, but at the same time, we don't want to overstep our authority either.
Anybody else?
I I have found that on the fire permit, that it says before you burn to call this number, and it usually tells you everything about the air condition and such. And if it's not a good day to burn, then it's not a good day to burn. So it gives a lot of information about that.
Yes, sir. But unfortunately, sometimes even the recording can be wrong. We had one a little north of town a few months ago, and it was a nasty one, and it was going right to a neighbor's yard. And even though they did everything they were supposed to do, and in all honesty, that fire that got out of control in Valeda, the gentleman that lit that fire pit did everything that he was supposed to do as well. So it still happens. Okay.
Folks. Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate it. Citizen input?
Yes.
Everybody signed up? All right, thank you. So as usual, we have our citizen input section, limited to 3 minutes per person and a total of 20 minutes in general. Diane Diffenberg.
Right here.
Right in front, there you go.
My questions are involving the use of Wohink water for
Oh,
Silkus. So I've lived here since 1973, and I've noticed our lake going down considerably, especially during the summer months. And I know that we are obligated to keep water over the dam, a certain amount of water. And I'd like to know what influence this is going to have on us in our water systems.
thank you. Deborah Thomas.
That's me. I kind of have the same question, the concern of the water, bringing 85 homes and taking it from Old Wohink now. And if they do that, what happens if more homes are built there and more homes are built in our area? Is there going to be enough water for everybody? And is it, I guess that's it.
In other words, when it gets low, the boats will get pumps up.
Yeah, because our pumps are in the lake,
Sure.
so.
Dick Booth.
I'm Dick Booth, resident of Dune City, and I've been very interested in the council and the actions of the council, and so I have some suggestions for the council. Sometimes councilors over-explain, making it very difficult to understand the point they are trying to make. My solution would be to follow the principle that brevity is clarity. Transparency has been lacking in the actions of the city, as made obvious by the community dispute on the marijuana issue. Our city charter is very clear that all city actions are to be transparent. My solution is to expand the testimony time to allow citizens to have the necessary time for their entire testimony and have verbal exchange between the councilors and the citizens. Have testimony and exchange occur in such a manner and sequence that it can reflect the deliberations of the council when new thoughts arise after the testimony section. It is my understanding that the Planning Commission, when Paul Gargis was chairman, completely rewrote Ordinance 255 in such a manner that the current dispute over the marijuana would not have occurred. My solution would be to adopt the already completed revisions to ordinances instead of wasting more Planning Commission time. I believe an overwhelming majority of our citizens want to remain a city. A solution: quit wasting time considering disincorporating and spend our resources on what we want to do to remain a city. At times, the council seems to be acting out of fear. Good decisions almost never result from actions taken from fear. The solution: do not act from fear. Act by doing the right thing with integrity. Thank you for all your considerations of me and my talking. And I really believe in Dune City. I have a long history here, and I want it to be a good place to live.
Thank you, Dave. Dave Davis.
My name is David Davis. I live in Dune City. First of all, I'm passing a petition around to make sure that your wages are doubled up there. My only comment concerns the Woven Lake water, and the previous lady that spoke about that was concerned about volume, and I simply would like some clarity. It's my understanding that there's plenty of volume to serve the proposed housing units and all of the proposed housing units in Dune City, since they're limited in their total allowed number. So if you could just clarify that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Old business.
So we have, again, the agreement for use of water right under the Shared Domestic Water Supply Program. This is between Dune City and South Coast Water District. Ms. Mills invited Susan Dalphitt, the Regional Water Master, to attend tonight's meeting, but she was unable to do so, and none of her superiors could attend either. She would be available perhaps in January. We were also expecting to have a letter from her talking to the questions that you brought up at the last meeting, but we haven't received that letter, sorry to say. So, Councilor Meyer, I believe you met with Ms. Dalphitt?
Yes, I did. I think it would be very wise for us to have someone from the state water down here to explain to us what we can and what we can't do, and what our water rights allow us to do and not do. From the conversation that we had the other day, it doesn't sound as though the state is as concerned about whether or not we have enough water. We have plenty of water to share with all of our citizens in Dune City, not just the ones lucky enough to live on Woking Lake. And I would like to hear that from her, or some expert that's going to be able to, if they're, Mapleton's not quite far enough because they're only 15 miles out of town, but to have an expert testimony, it needs to be 20, I think. I think we'd be better off to wait until January and have some more input and have some more ability to hear and understand what people's concerns are on all sides of this issue. So that's my recommendation at this point.
Councilman Orr?
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with that. I had anticipated, in fact, being able to ask a number of questions of that person, and unfortunately, we're not able to do so. So I would certainly support the idea of postponing any decision until we can.
I don't think 1 month difference is going to make a big deal.
I don't think so.
Is there a representative of Silkus Water District here?
Couldn't hear that. So.
No, or maybe there is.
They are. Oh, okay, they are here.
Yes, Heidi in the corner, pretty good.
Would you like us to address some of those questions that we left on the table last month?
I just had one really easy question. Is, if we put it off to January, you're drawing water from Silkus, so is this going to affect you terribly?
No, it's not. No. But I did come prepared to give the answers to the questions that were left on the table. And I did talk to Susan as well. And I'm not a state representative, but she did explain to me about Dune City residences, or all of the tax lots actually, would be covered under that water right that Dune City has. There isn't going to be any additional burden put on that water right to serve the rest of our residences plus others. All the tax lots are covered under that water right.
Well, that was the way I understood it last month, but I'm certainly willing to wait till we have a state representative here, hearing that it wouldn't encumber them so badly. To wait another month would be fine with me.
Yeah, my concern is the same as Councilman Montgomery's, is that I really want to hear from this. I want to hear from experts that we're not going to see in supposedly a drawdown in 10 years that affects everything. I basically understand how aquifers work. I have some basic knowledge, but this is kind of greater than, do I drill a well or not kind of thing. This is something that I think we need to be really, really convinced where our stand is, that the citizens are convinced that this is going to work before we make that action. And about the only thing I think we can do is bring in those so-called experts and let's hear about what they're doing. And I really would prefer to make my decision at that point. The rest of you? All right.
I make a motion to table this until the January meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any question? Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was a question as to the people on Sauber Drive. The agreements that were in place there between those two, and I did bring, and I would like to give those, and give them the agreements that are in place there.
Okay.
They're written agreements.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I'd also like to make just a really quick comment, is that the whole reason that South Coast is requesting a new water source is because of the quality of the water. It's not ever been a volume issue.
Right.
And so, because if it was a volume issue, then we would be having a totally different, we would be a detriment to Syracuse Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to keep that in mind, that it's never really been a volume, and that we're going to, that the Dune City residents are going to lower the
volume or more
volume of water.
Quality of water.
Yeah, it would be more of a detriment to
Syracuse
Lake if that were the case.
Okay.
So, just to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Okay, yes.
One more comment, because I was asking the question of this expert that was down here, and, the concern you had raised about, would we be double dipping? And I guess the answer that I think I heard was that if we take the water out of Wohink and store it in the facilities that are now taking the water out of Syracuse and storing it in the facilities, it's the same amount of water.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's true. One of the questions that I want to have answered, perhaps the next time, is just relative to the size of the lakes that we're talking about. How much water is coming out, like a percentage or something that can tell me whether or not this is a large amount of water coming out or a small amount of water coming out. That's kind of what I'd like to get. But that sounds like a question for, yes.
We have those numbers.
Yeah, we have those numbers. If the 85 residences that are proposed come online, what we would be using would be a 0.078 CFS which is that would relate to 5% of Dune City total water rate.
Wow, not much.
And our current water rate on Silcoos Lake is 68 gallons a minute, 0.14 CFS, that we currently use 0.32, or 32 gallons a minute, or 0.78 CFS right now.
Rapunzel, could you make sure that they can attend our January meeting? If they can't, maybe a special meeting is required, but we need to get this answered for the public and for South Coast. Thank you. All right, with that, all in favor of pushing this off till January?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we'll do that. I hate doing those, but I really think we need to.
Well, it comes back to my adage that a quick decision often requires a couple other quick decisions to make up.
That's right. Good point.
A little bit of time and think it through and get some, I'm not saying that these aren't expert testimonies that we've heard tonight, but I think someone from the state water division.
I think we need to see both sides. All right, goal setting session, scheduling. Yeah, New Year coming up. Yeah. There's the calendar.
So the last couple of years, these have typically been done in February,
Okay.
but you can schedule whenever you want. And the last couple of years also, it has only taken one session to set the goals. Just a little background info for you.
So are we looking to January or February?
February, I would assume.
February's good.
Either have nothing going on or just have an officer. Yeah, tennis matches don't count. All right. Rapunzel, have they been typically during working hours, after working hours, what have they?
During the day
During
is
the
what
day,
has
okay.
been done in the past.
Okay. Keeping in mind closed on Fridays.
Not everybody will have trouble on second Wednesday.
That probably wouldn't go over well.
Oh, that's good, it's Valentine's.
It is Valentine's Day, yes.
Yep.
So if you come on Valentine's Day, you have to be a sweetheart.
I think that pretty much leaves us. What's a good day for you? Good day for everybody?
I would just ask that it be later in the afternoon if at all possible.
But
After 3 or...
after 3, okay.
After 3. Yeah, 3:30.
A better day for you?
I don't think the day makes any difference.
Wednesday really isn't good for me in the afternoon.
Wednesday's not good, okay.
All right. How about like the 13th? That would give us the day before
Yeah.
the meeting, and that way we can speak to it as well.
Okay.
Sounds good.
3:30 or 4, which would,
4 would be a little preferable if we could.
is 4 okay on Tuesday the 13th?
Tuesday the 30th.
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
And that's for,
The goal setting.
What time was that?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Susan, good?
Yes.
Excellent.
What month?
4 o'clock, February.
What? February.
All right, memorandum of agreement relating to delegated building inspection program.
There's a copy of that in your council packets.
Uh-huh.
It was included last month as well. This is due to the building codes division by January 1st.
Okay.
But I believe one of the concerns last month was section 6, which was the term of the agreement. And so Ms. Mills ran that past the city attorney, who said that he was okay with it as long as the Northwest Code Professionals was, and they are. And we just have to understand that if the Department of Justice now decides in the future that they don't want cities to delegate out this work, the term would be immediately.
It's terminated
Yeah, so
beyond our control. So.
we kind of don't have any choice. But, so what we would need is, if you're okay with that, a motion to have a city representative sign this and then send it off to Northwest Code Professionals.
I think that's one question we have on that one. All right. So do we have a motion to finalize that agreement?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Hearing that will be passed. Request for approval of expenditure of funds, sign improvement projects at the boat dock.
How about request for approval of the expenditure of funds for city council sound system?
Oh, what can I do to put this up? That's because I couldn't hear you. Sound system, I think that is one that's been on everybody's.
We have had some
Yeah.
complaints, and so Ms. Mills has been looking into some alternatives for, it's the speakers
Right.
mostly. She has one estimate so far that would be about $500. She's also talking to a local company that might be a little bit less, but she's projecting around 500 right now.
No.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Can't even buy decent speakers for your TV anymore at that amount of money, so. Either that or the room's gotta get a lot closer.
Or megaphones.
Or maybe. Yeah. All right. Do you need a motion on that? I mean, that's just.
Oh, yes, please.
All right. We have a motion to spend $500. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. It's passed. All right, now we can get into the expenditure funds on the boat dock. And we've got grant funding already received.
We do. We have $1,800 worth of grant funding. The total cost of the project was right around $2,000, so the
Right.
city would spend about $200.
Wow.
And we'll have a beautiful new sign at the boat dock.
Can't say no.
Can't say no to that.
Really?
So you make a motion to approve this.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Anybody second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, we've passed that as well. We have no public hearing and no executive session tonight, unusual. Mayor's report. We had a very good discussion this afternoon with Byron Trapp, who is the county sheriff. He and his staff came down today. As I told you, I would have a conversation with him. He gave us a lot of good information. So one more meeting we have to get to is to the state police, so we have a full kind of understanding of how law enforcement works in the rural areas that we are living in today. I think from talking to the different council, and luckily Susan was able to come and Sheldon was there to hear the conversation. It pretty much, in a nutshell, boils down to everything that you've been seeing on the news and living with for the last 10 years. Budgets have been cut. Lane County is one of the lowest taxation property taxes in the state of Oregon. If you live in Eugene, it's $8 per thousand. We're in Lane County at $1.36. You have a total of 25 sheriffs within Lane County, which is 50 miles wide and 100 miles long. That's what they can afford. That's what they can do. Our options are fairly limited. If we wanted to hire a sheriff ourselves, that the sheriff department would run, it would cost, like several cities have done. It costs $170,000 a year to maintain that person and that equipment, which obviously our budget is on. But considering what goes into the police car and I mean all the things that involve in it is there. I myself got a better understanding of how the process works and how the various departments work together, the various reciprocities that they have, IGA agreements and things like that. They were aware of our plight like many others, and they were very polite, very informative. I don't know that other than a 2-hour meeting that many things will change other than our understanding of what they are up against. But they did, and so I was, one, enlightened, but two, encouraged that as citizens, calling them, reporting things, even when you know something isn't going to happen, no one's going to show up because it was somebody stole something out of your barn. They encouraged everybody still to make those calls because those calls go on record, and those calls are those things that start to build an awareness for them of where things are illegal things are happening. So if we all sit there and go, well, we know the sheriff isn't going to come because it's not a physical danger type of thing, it's somebody stole my tractor out of my barn, and we don't make that call, we don't go on record for it, they're never going to, he said right now, when the federal government looks at our crime rate for Lane County on the West Coast, they think it's an excellent place to be because there's no crime. And the lack of the fact that we don't make those calls because no one's coming out, no record is ever given. So he really encourages everyone, when there's an issue, please call so that it goes on their record, so that they can, when they turn these things into Eugene and look for monies and things, that they actually have this to go on. In great emergencies, they will call Florence PD, they will call the state police. So we're not totally left out in the cold, but we still have some conversations to have with other people. And we have some conversations. What I would like to see is once we have our final conversation with state police, I'd like to see the three of them in here talking to you folks. I think when you speak to someone face to face, it's a little more difficult to say no. When you speak to someone face to face, the conversation gets a little real because they have to put a face with it, and it's not a form, and it's not a phone call, and it's not a recording. So please, I encourage you to make those calls when something does happen, even though you may have a form to fill out and send back. At least we're starting to get a record built on it. I enjoyed the conversation and got a lot of information, but then I'm new to all of this. I moved here 9 years ago from San Diego, and like I told them, rural in San Diego is that the people are 6 feet away from you instead of 3 feet. So it's a little different for me getting used to this type of thing, where there's actually land. It's great to go into a conversation going, please tell me, because I'm really, I need to soak up all the knowledge I can on these topics. So we're not done yet, but if nothing else, please make those phone calls when anything happens. Community Center report.
The first issue was the sound system. Staff is moving ahead on that very nicely.
Good.
The second is, if you notice, the tanks have been moved from the front parking lot. I don't have an ETA on when it'll be complete and rock ball back up and access around back will be safe again. But it's coming along.
Water quality report.
Still looking really good in Womack. And we'll see about solving that problem.
Good. Public Works.
In fact, I reported to the water quality group that I met with either yesterday or the day before, that in a study that I did a couple of years ago, comparing one location in Woking about the same time of year, every single year, our water has become better since 1996 than two anomalies prior to that, one in 95 and one in 93. But throwing those two outliers out, our water has been getting clearer and clearer and clearer.
Oh, super good. Public Works.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Emergency Services, Jamie's.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, we got it. City Administrator, recording, finding staff, do you have anything on that? Proposal?
A copy of the report is in your packet. One thing of note is that the draft water management and conservation plan was submitted to the Division of Water Resources for review and comment. And I believe Ms. Mills anticipates a lot more work to be done on that, but she started the ball rolling
Good.
by getting feedback from them.
Super. Good in the order. Councilman Moore.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Mayor Forsyth, that how much I appreciate, and I think others appreciate, the fact that you're looking into some of these issues, like the coverage for, like police coverage, which have certainly needed to happen, and we're learning a lot, and thank you.
Mine has got to do with the holidays and the job that our staff is doing throughout the year for us. And traditionally, we've always given the staff a, what do you call it, a gift, thank you, yeah. I don't remember the amount that we gave last year.
Don't ask them.
Yeah, I'd like to see that done again this year.
It was thousands.
So I said, don't ask.
I think it's important that you do a heck of a job for
I
us.
think it's a good idea.
I agree with that.
Sheldon, anything?
No, I just concur with
I don't know if this is for the good of the order, but I was curious about, one of the gentlemen that spoke was talking about some give and take when we're talking to the people. Now, the, what do you call it? When they give testimony, we're supposed to be quiet and listen, and there's not supposed to be a give and take.
Right.
Is there another thing we can do that is a question and answer?
Yes, there is, and I haven't got clarification on it, on how it happens. But there is, and I'm working on that. I asked Joe Henry how to do that. They've got a process that it works, and it's in the meeting laws. So, yeah, because it really feels ridiculous to sit here, hear it, and not be able to respond to it.
Yes.
But there is a way to do it. So we'll get that. I think that'll be something that we can get done really quickly in January, February at the least, and be able to have that as real input to
I
it.
do like that we have to sit here quietly and listen to their testimony, but we all should be able to answer them.
And sometimes that comes up at the end where you respond to what we're talking about. I'm just getting the proper verbiage so that we get this in place. So because it seems kind of weird.
Also, welcome.
Yes.
Anything for the good of the order? Your first one.
I just thank you for the appointment, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Well, we're happy to have you, and thank you for coming today. I look forward to your input, and some of the input that you had today in today's meeting was very helpful. Yes.
I have a few things,
That's
if you don't
fine.
mind. First of all, Miss Bonnie Allen is here. She
Yes.
lives in Sunset Cove, and I know we've passed the opportunity for discussion on South Coast Water District, but would she be able to say a few words at this point?
I don't have a problem with it.
I make a motion to listen to her.
I'd like to hear her say a few words.
Yeah, because I've been to those meetings.
Well, speak to that one.
My name is Bonnie Allen, and I live at 3618 Souter Drive in Dune City. I am speaking today, not as chairman of the Planning Commission, but as a citizen of Dune City, a resident of the Sunset Cove Development, and a former member of the Dune City Water Quality Committee, a water tester, and secretary of Wohink Lake Association. Today I represent not only myself, but the owners of 13 of the 16 lots at Sunset Cove, which is 82% of the development. I would like to enter into the record a letter I wrote to Randy Reeds of Oregon Water Services. Representing those owners, in which we voted unanimously to support the proposal to provide water to Oregon Water Services through a point of diversion at our cove on Wohink Lake. And it would continue up through our common area to Clear Lake Road. We, the owners of 13 of the lots at Sunset Cove, would become customers of Oregon Water Services. As Mayor Forsyth stated at the November council meeting, it would be more appropriate to negotiate the agreement with Oregon Water Services when a point of diversion has been identified. We, the owners of Sunset Cove, are willing to provide that point of diversion.
Thank you very much. That would be something. Okay.
Okay, so, and I should probably, just for the record, refer you to some correspondence that was included in your packet and on the dais. In the packet was a letter from Catherine, an email from Catherine Cottle dated November 26. It referred to whether or not agriculture was an appropriate use in the R1 zone. On the dais is a document called Good Governance Report 2017. It's from Dune City Citizens Annual Review. Also on the dais is an amended notice of intent to appeal to Catherine Cottle versus Dune City. That's all I have.
Yeah, we need to make a motion to gift our staff, what we did last year.
Well, let's do it just in case.
I don't know what the amount was.
It's always nice to have a motion.
Yeah, I don't know what the amount was. I'd say the same as what they got last year.
Okay.
Make a motion to, a gift, a thank you, whatever, I don't remember what it was. Christmas for staff, holiday tidings.
Whatever it was called last year.
Whatever it was called, I would like that.
And I want to second that, whatever it was called.
Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I could do wish Merry Christmas to all of you people that have shown up and continue to show up. Happy Hanukkah and anything else that would be appropriate. Thank you very much for coming and spending your time, because we need to hear these things.
Helps. Very nice.
I know I already spoke, but I kind of have one more question. About the water. Okay, she said what you're saying was there would be a place to draw from Robin where you were at?
At the November meeting, the mayor said we need a straw to get this going.
Right.
And the straw would go in, down by our dock.
Okay.
And up through our common area to Clear Lake and then down. We are the straw.
So So those people that, if those people, those 85 homes draw from Woking Lake, they're gonna pay for their water?
No,
They don't pay for the water?
just a point of diversion, though.
It's just a point of diversion.
Okay,
Well,
'cause-
I understood years ago, I'm one of the original rabble rousers that fought Gulf Oil getting in here, that once you supplied water to people in a service in the city, you were obligated to supply it to everybody. Is that still the law?
That's why we're hearing from more people and more experts on this type of thing, because we need to make sure that all this is covered before we make a decision up here.
Well, just to be clear, we would be customers of Oregon Water
But
Service.
then would you be paying for your water?
We
Is
would
my
be
question.
paying for our water, and they are governed by Oregon Public Utilities Commission.
Why should other people pay for
Yeah,
water?
well, we have to.
We're not paying for it now.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, why should we do that? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't think you are, Paul.
No, I'm not.
I mean, that you wouldn't be paying for Oregon Water Services either. I would, because I'm planning to get my water from them.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again, please.